Rob, hey,
Tim, how are you, man? Welcome to
good.
Tuesdays at 2, our brand new 3D IQ live show on LinkedIn, X, and I think it's on our YouTube, which is super exciting. With me, I have one of the co-conspirators, co-contributors, whatever we would like to call Tim today, Mr. Tim Walker. How's it going, brother?
Hey, hey, we talked about this beforehand, and we decided you were going to be the host.
We did.
And so I'm happy. I'm happy to be the guest. I'm happy to be the behind the scenes
Yeah.
guest.
So next time we're gonna have like a countdown, so I know when to actually do that because that was what I was.
Got that?
As we
You're
hit play, I
aware.
was like, oh, we don't have a countdown, so now I don't know what to do. Anyway,
You're a
guys, super
professional.
exciting. Our topic today, first, Tuesdays at 2 is it's kind of like it's actually a really good name, Tim. It kind of reminds me of Breakfast at Tiffany's, right? Which is fantastic in its own right. But we're going to talk to you guys about today. We're going to talk about all kinds of topics. If you're not familiar with 3D IQ, we are a sales and marketing tool for Bullhorn right now. And what we do is we help make the most important parts of your business, your submissions, and also your talent pools more accessible to your end clients. And today we're going to talk about feedback and the times that you get feedback, because we named this Tuesday at 2 because if a person you submit a candidate to is viewing something on their desktop, middle of the week around 2 o'clock, specifically Tuesday is the winner, is when they're going to view it. So Tim, do you want to break down, or number one, let's have you say hello.
Hey,
that's not helpful. And then
yeah,
let's go into the stats a little bit.
yeah. And I don't know if you noticed, but it is Tuesday at 2 p.m. here, East Coast.
It is.
It's not going to be as relevant for our West Coast friends.
Maybe we should rotate it so it's like 2 on one week, 3 on the other.
There you go. That's an
and then
idea.
once a month, it's always Tuesday at 2 for a time zone.
It's 2 o'clock somewhere.
Jimmy Buffett would agree.
Yeah. So I'm Tim, one of the founders of 30 IQ, and I think part of the reason why Tuesday at 2 or this idea has always been really interesting to me is that we don't really know until now, when is the best time to interact with a hiring manager, or when is the best time to get your resume seen, or when is the best time to get feedback. Traditionally, we just don't have that data or have that information. That's sort of user data and those sort of statistics are really prevalent in other industries, maybe media industries, marketing industries. Like, you want to know when your customers are going to be most engaged.
Yeah. Right? So with the newsletter for the You and the Experience podcast, I know that most opens are at between 9 and 9:15 in the morning when I send that email out.
Yeah. So if you're trying to sell something via email marketing or online shopping, those people are experts. They always are honed in on when's the best time to send this email to get the most clicks, to get the most engagement. And they're selling a product in exactly the same way that us in the staffing industry are selling a product. But we just don't know any of that information. So a lot of times it's just gut feelings and things like that. And that gets us part of the way, I think, because I think a lot of people in our industry have really good instincts about this stuff because we've been doing it for a long time. But it's cool to finally, I think, be able to put some hard numbers behind the instincts.
Yeah, and that way you can do things like, use a email marketing tool or Bullhorn automation, or maybe even 30 IQ eventually, to gently remind somebody to review a resume that you sent over at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, right? So I just think that there's, as staffing and recruiting, whichever we want to call it, right, grows up into a more of a data-focused industry, those are the things that are going to actually matter. It is very prevalent already everywhere else in the business world. We try not to send emails when people aren't going to watch them or like read them. So like sending emails at midnight in someone's time zone is not when you send something, because it's going to get lost in the inbox by the time the next morning rolls around. So, no, I'm a huge fan of being deliberate and using data to be drive the most impact. So, super, super happy about what we can deliver for our clients and all this great data we can show them. So, Tim, would you like to share some charts that you made? Because
first, maybe a
oh, you want to do this one, yeah?
As a show of hands here, though we can only see two hands. How many people out there have heard this phrase? Hiring managers, or studies show hiring managers only reviewed your resumes for 7 seconds. This, ever since I've been in the industry, which is a dozen, 15 years now at this point, every like 2 or 3 years, this same story comes up in one version or another, right? So here's an example from Indeed from 2022. And it says that eye tracking studies, they hook people up to a computer, they show them resumes, and they use eye tracking to determine how long you actually review or look at a resume for. So here's an example from 2022. Here's an example from 2018. Eye tracking study shows recruiters look at resumes for 7 seconds. Here's an example from 2020. How to get your resume noticed from Harvard Business Review. Same story. Eye tracking research shows that HR professionals review your resumes for 7 seconds.
Yeah, that text is really small, but thank you for reading that.
But you get the idea, right? Yeah. I would venture to say that just about everybody out there has heard that phrase, or that has that idea in some form or the other. And we use it to tell our candidates that, hey, you need to put a really good resume together, because your hiring managers, they're only going to look at it for a few seconds, and then they're going to move on to somebody else. Well, all of that is baloney. It's all research data that I don't think captures real world actual use cases and how actual hiring managers review resumes. And I think at the end of the day, it also maybe shortchanges our hiring managers, because it makes them look dumb. It makes them seem like they don't care or something like that. Yeah. And what our data shows, so because we send out links instead of file attachments through 30IQ, our users, we show that hiring managers actually review resumes for an average, depending on the industry, somewhere between like 1 minute, 20 seconds and 2 minutes. And that could vary based on how in-depth the resume is, how much information's on the page. But that, I think, paints a totally different picture than, a hiring manager is looking at your resume for 7 seconds and they're, breezing through a dozen of them, and they don't really care.
It's interesting. Like maybe they look at it for 10 seconds and then they think about something and they go back and they look for the next thing. But like, I mean, yes, we have short attention spans, but I can't imagine that is going to be true just as like a full glance, right? Like, it's kind of sad, but
yeah, that's like what is it? A goldfish? That is a goldfish attention span 7 seconds.
7 to 10 seconds. So
yeah, and I say I point this out, I guess, as an illustration of the fact that I think without real hard data, sometimes we can have misunderstandings about things, and that can hamper or be a detriment to what we do. Because if you go into it thinking, this manager is only going to look at it for 7 seconds, you may decide that it doesn't really matter what goes in the resume, or you may decide you're going to just really dumb it down and you're going to leave out stuff that's important. There's potential consequences to that, right? And so I think that's my first point, is that our data, real world data from thousands and thousands of clients, hiring manager reviews, is that they actually view resumes for a lot longer than that. And I think they give them more attention than sometimes we give them credit for as recruiters.
All right, let's get into some more stats here.
Let's talk about stats. Okay, so this is based on several 100,000 resume views. So these are real world 3D resume views in aggregate over a period of time. So like I said, I think it encompasses 200,000 or 300,000 total resume views. And what this chart shows here is the most popular times to view resumes. And it's in 24-hour time here. So you can see that our two highest or most popular times based on percent of total resume views is right there at the 2 and 3 o'clock hours. So about 10% of all 3D resumes, client resume views, are viewed at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then another 10% at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So a full 20% are viewed in those afternoon hours, after lunch, before they go home. And I think it's interesting maybe to speculate why that is. I don't know if you've got any thoughts.
I've been thinking about it since you told me this stat. I think you told me this stat like 2 years ago. And I've never been a hiring manager, so I don't know what their day looks like, but I can't imagine. I have to imagine that, if you look at 10 and 11 and then 2 and 3, right? Like it's in the middle of their day after they got all their follow-ups and busy work done or anyone in person. And now they have time to actually sit down and do work, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
That's, like email work. So
do you have any idea? And you can see
without an answer.
I think I could speculate, and and I think it would hold true what you're saying, right? Is that's a productive time of the day. It's when they're back from lunch, they've got some energy.
They got over the itis. They have nothing. No one's bothering them.
That's right. Nobody's bothering them. They got through the emails that they didn't get through from the previous day. And though we do overall, right, see a real grouping in the mid-afternoon, and then a drop at the lunch hour, and then another uptick in the early afternoon. Yeah. And I think that points to exactly what you're saying, right? Is that people need to rev the engine up a little bit, and then they kind of get going and they're productive, and then they have lunch, and then they get productive again. And so if what I generally suggest to customers that we onboard is that if you want to engage your customers or your clients, think about when you're sending your emails, and think about sending them or your submission emails right in the middle of the day. Maybe right after lunch. Be ready when they get back from lunch, and they're ready to be productive. So then, second slide here to talk about is the time or the day of the week. And this is also, I think, interesting. What I always heard early on in my career is that don't send a submission on Monday. Don't send a submission on Friday. They're not really going to look at them. They're either buried with emails on a Monday morning, or they want to get out of the office on a Friday. And I think that sort of holds true. I think the instinct here in this case is basically true. We see the most resume views on Tuesdays and Thursdays during the week. Yeah. And that points to people being productive, right? I think on those days.
Well, if you pack all your meetings on a Monday, you're not at your desk, or you're at your desk having meetings, and then you're doing stuff the rest of the week. And then Friday, you're trying to put out any fires so that you can do nothing for the weekend.
And so that's why we're here at Tuesday at 2. That's when we find the most hiring managers that's when they're most likely to be sitting at their desk and reviewing submissions. Tuesday at 2, Tuesday at 3. So these are our top 10 day and time combinations. And as you can see here, the first 6 are all Tuesday and Thursday between 2 and 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And then we add in 1 p.m. in there. And so the strongest times are that mid-afternoon period on Tuesdays and Thursdays. As you can see down here, this little asterisk is that is that these top 10 times here account for about a quarter of all resume views or profile views with 3D-IQ. And so so the bulk, right, or a large plurality are viewed in these few hours in the afternoon.
Yeah, no, it makes sense from based on our chat show. So this is huge. I like this.
Yeah,
25%. So that's a pretty good amount of what's going on. Is there like the Monday and Wednesdays? Is it like around mid-afternoon as well? Because I got to imagine if you're in meetings, you're probably done by mid-afternoon.
Yep. Yeah, and as you can see here, a Monday, so a Monday and a Friday, they don't even crack the top 10, and I'm not sure they even crack the top 20. I would have to go back and look a little bit deeper, but Wednesday, really, that Wednesday at 3:00, I think what we would see is that when we do look at those off days, so a Monday and a Friday, those same early afternoon spots are going to be more common for viewing and reviewing resumes as they get back, or as they sort of are in the office.
I love it. All right, well, Tim, we're at the 16-minute mark, and we want it to be a 15-minute show. So next Tuesday at 2, we'll cover any of the topics that we did not get to cover. But guys, if you have any questions, if you want to take a screenshot, or we can send you these slides, you guys can look to be more efficient, more impactful with when you send submissions. You can also, Tim also really loves when you talk about his flannel or striped shirts, which I do frequently, which I didn't get to do because he's wearing a 3D-IQ one today. So I had a throw at the end. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Tim, thank you for sharing all these great data. If you have any questions, or if you want to be more impactful with your submissions, if you want to make it easy for your recruiters to create submissions and get them out and track all this actual meaningful behavior, that's more digital marketing than it is brute force at the end of the day, you know where to find us. Thanks, Tim.
Yep. Thanks, Rob. See you, buddy.